In the early days of colonial America, life was extremely challenging, and many colonists would struggle to find work that would allow them the ability to provide for their families. However, by the early 18th century, after several years of hard work and sacrifice, many of the people in these colonies were able to live in comfortable homes and held fairly cushy jobs. And for Samuel Chew, the subject of tonight's urban legend, that was no different. However, even though he was able to live in a comfortable home and have a cushy job, things weren't always so great for Mr. Samuel Chew. Samuel Chew was born on October 30th, 1693, and lived his childhood on his family estate Maidstone in what at the time was Anne Arundel County, Maryland. Although county borders have since been redrawn, and the manor home, which still stands to this day, is now in Calvert County. Samuel would marry his first wife in 1715, and the pair would have Samuel's one and only child, Benjamin. Shortly thereafter, Samuel's first wife would sadly pass away in 1734, and he would remarry just 2 years later, taking Mary Paca Galloway as his wife. In 1738, he would move his family to Kent County, Delaware, and build an estate that he would name Whitehall. Samuel rose to prominence in 1741 when the governor of Pennsylvania would appoint him to the position of Chief Justice of the Delaware Supreme Court. And while he was a distinguished individual, and his job was one that it would be presumed would make most people hold him in a high regard, and he was influential among the Quakers, he would also provoke criticism by the public due to an address he would give to the grand jury of Newcastle, in which he would debate the lawfulness of resistance to an armed enemy. He was fair and just in the courtroom, and was, for the most part, liked and admired by the people of Dover. However, it would not take long for people to take note of his interesting name. His name was the subject of many jokes, including people making sneezing noises and proclaiming "Achoo!" whenever he would pass by. Some would also make chewing motions while smacking their lips together. This apparently infuriated Mr. Chew, and according to the legend, he took the animosity and anger with him all the way to the grave. Samuel Chew would pass away on June 16th, 1743, just 4 short months shy of his 50th birthday. After his death, some of those that had tormented him in life would no longer see the point in mocking the former Chief Justice, and would put the taunting to rest, alongside the man himself. However, some would take to mocking him even more ferociously. Due to this, Mr. Chew could not rest in peace, and he would become adamant that the ridicule must end.
And now a word from our sponsors.
VENATOS is in our hands. It's left to us, guys. And we gotta do something with it.
Anyone who's been a part of the Press Start family for any amount of time knows that I truly appreciate and value the relationship that I have with today's sponsor, VENATOS. They are truly an outstanding company with great quality products that I can truly get behind and put my stamp of approval on. Their customer service is absolutely hands down some of the best on the marketplace. If you reach out to them for any reason, your emails are typically responded to within hours, not days. Hours. And not only do they promise to make it right, they promise to make it better. And as a thank you for your support, they are offering a 10% discount on any orders if you use the code PRESSSTARTMOM at checkout. They do ship internationally, including Canada, and 100% stand by the quality of their products. And so do I. Thank you, VENATOS, for sponsoring this video, and thank you to all of you for checking out VENATOS. Let's get back to the video. It would be on a cold evening in autumn when a farmer by the name of David Hendricks would be present for the specter's first appearance. Hendricks was on his way to a local tavern to meet up with some fellow farmers after working in the fields all day. Hendricks reported that Mr. Chu, wearing his black courtroom robes and powdered wig, appeared before him, rising up with the light of the moon. His robes fluttered in the wind, and his wig had an eerie glow cast by the moonlight. Hendricks began to feel a deep chill seeping through his bones, and he was terrified. To his mortification, he suddenly found himself caught in a fit of sneezing, which only further set off Mr. Chu, seeing it as more mocking. And with that, Mr. Chu began chasing Hendricks all the way through the town, back to his home, where Hendricks would lock himself carefully inside. He would then confide in his wife, sharing the frightening ordeal that he had just gone through, vowing to never be in the field alone at night, ever again. The following morning, his wife shared the harrowing tale of her husband's encounter with Mr. Chu, with their fellow neighbor, and before long the details of Mr. Hendricks and his rendezvous with the specter would spread like wildfire. Rumors would run rampant that Dover was cursed and haunted by the former Chief Justice. But it would be a full year later before another unfortunate Quaker colonist would find themselves in the presence of the affronted Samuel Chu. Peter Droongoggle, the town miller, was walking toward home one rainy evening with the wind blowing hard and the rain beating down and soaking him. A strong gust of wind blew his lantern to the ground, and as he crouched down to retrieve it, he was confronted by the spirit of Mr. Chu. Samuel stood standing in front of the man, just staring at him wordlessly. It was then that Peter remembered that he was one of the individuals guilty of mocking the deceased man and mocking his name. It was with that he was suddenly gripped by two very strong emotions: regret and fear. His face went pale, and he didn't think twice. He dropped the lantern and ran blindly in the dark as fast as he could towards home. With this most recent encounter, the people of Dover were overcome with fear, and no one felt safe going out after dark. For those townspeople that were brave enough to venture out after the sun went down, they would come back with tales of seeing Mr. Chu sitting under a poplar tree, waiting for a passerby to dare disturb him. Chu was also known to pull on men's coattails, and women would report to being overcome by a cold and dark feeling. Others would share tales of encounters with the former Justice Chu, wandering the courthouse he so regularly frequented in life. His spirit would often be spotted roaming the courtrooms, as if still presiding over cases as he had in life. The townspeople were all terrified of having their own encounter with Mr. Chu. Tavern owners would find their businesses eerily empty every night, and that led to concerns about how they would make a living and pay their expenses. It got so concerning, Mistress Von Loon, one of these struggling tavern owners, would call a town meeting in the hopes of finding a solution to these fears and concerns. She would announce to the townspeople, "Our town was once a cheerful place, filled with happy, satisfied people. We have all worked together side by side, each to his own talents, to make our town a haven of prosperity and safety for all. But now, the ghost of our late Justice Chu roams the streets, frightening all of us. I have thought long and hard of how we might rid ourselves of this unwelcome spirit, and I think there might be a way. I have heard it said that in England, a ghost who roams can be put to rest by giving it a nice burial." And eventually the townspeople would hold a second funeral for the ghost of Mr. Chu in Dover's Green, lying a spirit to rest with tales of what a great man he had been in life, hoping to placate his wounded pride. They would bury an empty casket, but they would have made an ornate and decorative gravestone, hoping to honor the man, with the secondary hope that this would also, finally, put his spirit to rest. And with that, allow the people of Dover to go on with their lives. And for all intents and purposes, that would appear to be the end of the haunting of Samuel Chu. However, I would offer this bit of advice. If you ever find yourself in Dover and you have a bit of a cold, I would recommend staying in for the night, lest you wander the streets and a sneeze come upon you and you find yourself face to face with Mr. Chu. Thank you all so much for your patience with my time away from the channel. I am so glad to be back making content for you guys again, and I will admit that researching this video was a nice happy distraction, and I can't wait to share more tales with you coming soon. And I also want to extend a deep thank you for finally getting us to 500 subscribers. I am so grateful for this little channel, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you for all the support that you give it. If you haven't already subscribed, I do hope that you will consider subscribing and being part of the Press Start family. Please like the video and comment on some other urban legends that are your favorites that you'd like me to research for an upcoming video. As always, thank you all for sharing your time with me. And until next time, be good to one another and be good to yourselves.